The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. And now, here are your co-hosts, Eve D., Bruce H., and the Monty Band.
Welcome aboard, everyone, all you scallywags and scallywagettes. It's good to have you with us here at Take 12 Recovery Radio. Eve is here.
Hey there.
Eve is back. Eve is back. Eve is back. And Bruce is still here. Yeah, we try to get rid of him. He just doesn't go away. He just stays.
Didn't we just talk about this, that we hope that Bruce never goes away?
Never goes away. Yeah. Hey, Bruce, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
Hey,
And I'm glad that Eve is back.
Yes, we are. And you know who else? You know who else is glad that Eve is back?
Cecil.
Cecil is glad that Eve is back. Cecil, do you have something you want to say or do for Eve?
Well, yes, I do have something very special. I'm dedicating this to Eve. So, Monty Man, cue the music. Okay, this one's for my friend Eve. Here we go. Welcome back. You thought you could leave, but you can't get out. Welcome back to the crazy show that others laugh about. Though the others that were here, we appreciate. It wasn't the same, 'cause Eve, you're so great. And who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Back here where we need ya. Yes, we tease Eve a lot, 'cause we've got her on the spot. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Eve, we're so happy and excited that you're here. Monty Man loves you, and even Bruce loves you. It's so good to have you back. Welcome back, Eve. Okay, that's enough. I'm tired. Okay, stop the music.
Thank you, Cecil.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Cecil.
He's got quite a voice.
Yeah.
Cecil's
He made me jump in there for a little too. Welcome back.
Well, we wanted. I'm just so glad you're here. And what we've been going through. We hadn't done it in a long time, and we're doing understanding the steps. Understanding step 1 and step 2. This week it's understanding step 3. And close to the show, we've been featuring a song in the order that they have been produced on the CD "Learning to Live Again," Just Ray, by Ray White. And he's a friend of ours. He's been on the show several times. His music is amazing, and so we wanted to give you the CD, Eve, Learning to Live Again. I think you'll really love it. At the end of the show, at the end of the show, we're going to be featuring his song called "The Living Dead." Now they've been kind of upbeat so far. This one's a little dark, but we're going to be featuring him. If you would like one of these CDs. It's really simple. All you have to do is go to take12radio.com, click on the donate button, and donate $11, and we'll send you the CD. There you go. And that's courtesy of Ray White in support of Take 12 Radio. So Eve is back, and it has been, how long has it been since you've been here?
I'm thinking that I left after Mom got sick.
After Mom got sick.
Yes,
yeah.
so that would have been, she was diagnosed in late June of 14.
Wow.
Oh, Lord.
Doesn't seem like it's been that long.
Mm-hmm.
It probably has, though, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we can get back on track. Welcome back. But I do want to say how much I appreciate all the people that have stepped in while he was gone.
But I think we also
shows.
should let people know that there might be a time in the near future where Eve has to leave us for a little while. We don't know how long that will be, and that's for keep care of your dad, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
My dad has CTE, so if you've seen the movie Concussion, that's what he's dealing with.
So your chair, we'll keep it warm for you.
All right, then.
But it's your chair. There you go. Yippee! Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, as we understood Him. In italics, we're going to be talking about understanding this step. So hang in there with it, because there may be some things you never considered. In fact, Ray White, we talked on the phone yesterday, and he was talking to me about one of his sponsees and how they listened to the show, and they said, man, it's things that they never considered before being discussed on this show and how it's helped them. So you just never know. So don't hang up. Don't hang up. Don't click us off.
I think it was don't touch your radio dial.
Don't touch your radio dial. Yeah, right. But listen, there are several ways you can listen to the show. I'm going to let you know what those are right now. First of all, you can go to take12radio.com. You can put in the number 12 or the word. It'll take you to the same place. You can click on the Listen Online button, and it'll take you to our Podomatic page. And there you can download the show. You can save it to a playlist. You can download it so it doesn't take up your data. You can subscribe on YouTube. Yes, you can do that. You can also go to iTunes. We're on iTunes now. And we have an app with Podomatic that you can download for your smart device for Android or iPhone. So there's just all sorts of ways you can listen to the show. Become a member of Podomatic, and you can comment on the shows there. You can follow us. We ask that you click on the follow link on the Podomatic page. You can access all that stuff at take12radio.com.
I think of how illiterate I really am, because, that's all Greek to me.
It's all Greek to
and
you.
I'm over on the other side of this microphone trying to say something to people, and I don't know what he's talking about.
That's okay.
You manage very well, though.
Well, I think about several years ago when I swore to my wife I would never get on a computer. Not happening. Oh, happened.
I just don't have nobody to swear to.
You can swear at me.
Well, I swear I'm not getting on the computer.
Okay, so we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we've got some Take 12 trivia, and then the topic, understanding step 3. Don't go away.
When you hear that bell, you'll know it's time for Recovery 101. Recovery 101 with Bruce, Shelley, and Mark is a recovery broadcast based loosely on 12-step recovery programs. But it's less like a meeting and more like going to coffee afterwards. You know, the meeting after the meeting. Ooh. Your host used to suffer from insanity, but now they absolutely, unapologetically enjoy it.
That's right.
For incredible fun and informative recovery radio, tune in to Recovery 101 at recovery101.net on your internet dial.
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia exists to help people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. To speak with an addiction specialist, call 1-855-652-4325. That's 1-855-652-4325. Or visit our website at www.therapia.net. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, restoring lives one step at a time.
Okay, everybody, now that we're all calmed down from all the emotionalism surrounded around Eve's return to the show, it's time for Take 12 Trivia!
That's right. Bruce's favorite show. Take 12 game show, Take 12 Trivia, brought to you this week by the 12-Step Gazette. Visit their website at 12stepgazette.com. All right. Step 3 trivia. Step 3 trivia. Shaking in your boots, Bruce?
Always. I feel the same way about this as I did 4 years ago.
Yeah. I was going to say this is not our favorite part of the show, but...
Oh, dear me. All right.
This is Step 3 trivia?
Step 3 trivia. There are 3 trivia questions and a bonus.
Step 3 trivia. I didn't know there was any trivia in this step.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay.
If you get it right, you'll hear...
I don't want to hear it.
Let's see. You'll hear that. If you get it wrong, of course, you hear that. All right, number 1. In the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, in the 3rd step prayer, it states, relieve me of the bondage of blank, so I may better do thy will. Here is your choices. Alcohol, self, or addiction?
Self.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you guys got that right.
Do, 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 do.
In the book 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, it states that step 3 represents our first attempt to what? Here are your choices. Trust spirituality, let God in, or give a higher power a name.
Let God in.
Yeah, that's what I think it is, too.
Wow, you guys are 2 for 2.
Now, you see, you always jinx it.
I jinx
You
it?
just-
I'm going to jinx it? Okay. All right. Number 3. Again in the 12...
Knock it on.
Again in the 12 and 12, it states, so it's by circumstance...
Like who reads the 12 by 12?
I hope you do.
Okay.
Uh,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
so it's by circumstance rather than virtue that we have been driven to what? Here are your choices. Sobriety, a desire to stay sober, or Alcoholics Anonymous.
Well, I'd say Alcoholics Anonymous, but I think I'm wrong.
What was the question again?
So it is by circumstance rather than virtue that we have been driven to sobriety, desire to stay sober, or AA.
Desire to stay sober.
Well, Eve, sorry. Bruce, you are correct. The answer is AA. Okay, let's see. Eve can redeem herself here. Here's the last one.
There's a Redeemer?
Yes.
You bet.
Okay, written in italics in the 12 and 12, it states, our whole trouble had been the misuse of willpower. We had tried to bombard our problems with it instead of attempting to bring it into agreement with what? A, the group conscience, B, the 12 steps, or C, God's intention for us.
God's intention for us.
Yay! Very good. All right, that does it for Take 12 Trivia for this week. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so check this out. The Lifeline Connections alumni event is coming up. The theme is I Love Recovery with comedian Bob Perkel. Bob's a friend of ours. He's been on the show. And this is going to be at Clark College Geyser Hall Student Center on Friday, February 26th from 6 to 9. It's a free event. There's food. There's Bob Perkel. There's vendor booths. And guess what else there is?
Food?
Monty Man.
The Monty Man will be there. So we're going to be covering that event. So come by our table and say hello. But it's great. And I've said it a million times. The recovery community in Vancouver, Washington is a mind blower. It is just amazing how the faith community and the secular 12-step community have come together, dropped the walls between them, and it's huge.
You
Huge.
say that the last few weeks. I'm going to go up there.
You got to.
And see what
Got to
that's
go up
all
to
about.
the Exchange Church. It's all a recovery church. It's gigantic. It's amazing stuff. Here's something interesting. Tom Hanks' son, Chet Hanks. This year is really new for him. It says this is the first year of his life. He says I actually feel a huge change from the end of one year to a beginning of a new. Usually I don't feel any difference because every day has its previous year's equivalent, but something about 2016 feels significant for me. I am so ready to let go of 2015, along with all the bad habits, selfish behaviors, poor choices, draining relationships, sketchy situations, lack of faith, self-doubt, and fear that went along with it. However, I will be giving thanks to my Lord for the clarity he has blessed me with during this year so that I can see these things in order to make changes. It will take incredible discipline on a day-to-day basis, but I know, in capital letters, without a doubt, that if I stay focused in 2016, I will be able to live fully as a man of God and how God intends me to be as the best version of myself through his divine grace. I wish nothing but happiness and health to you all and to everybody you love and who loves you. Thank you for rocking with me. So Tom Hanks' son, Chet Hanks, in recovery, doing rather well. On a sadder note, before we get into the topic, and I talked about this before, but it's now launched. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say the name. Here we go. Kardashian. Khloe Kardashian promises drinking games and crazy stories on Cocktails with Khloe. In a new promo for her upcoming show, Cocktails with Khloe, Kardashian likened the FYI series to what happens after you've had a few cocktails and break out in drinking games. They're doing this on TV. She says, you just start spewing out the craziest stories, and that's what the talk show is based around. It's based around one of the dinner parties I have at my house. Kardashian says in a promo she shared on social media, the series was pushed back from its original date in December, release date following hospitalization of Kardashian's estranged husband, Lamar, last October, due to complications because of addiction, by the way. The reality star's 8-episode, 1-hour sit-down for FYI Network premiered in early January. What?
Yeah.
You know, the devastation of these things are right in front of your face, and now you've got a television show promoting drunkenness.
You know, Monty, think back when you was in your addiction. Wouldn't you have gave anything to have an inlet like that to go into? A forum to go into where you could just drink and do what you wanted?
Sure.
See, that's what we're looking for. You know, and it makes all the sense in the world to me as an addict, an alcoholic.
Oh yeah, me too.
You know,
it's just so
really
sad.
Does. It really is.
It's so
and that's
sad.
why I think we're asking these people to do something that maybe they're not ready to do, that they're not able to do,
Are capable of doing.
are capable. All them roads lead to the same place.
Another show, is it the Hollywood Game Show or something like that? The gal that played on Glee as the principal, she plays in a series now called Angel from Hell. Can't think of her name offhand, but it's called Hollywood Game Show or something like that. But it's celebrities, and they're sitting around and they're playing things like charades and Pictionary and that kind of stuff. And they're told to drink. They're drinking. You know, and the more they drink, the funnier it gets.
Sheen did that long before these people ever got started.
Yeah.
Well, and what comes to my mind is kind of the hunger of the flesh for something to stimulate it. Mm-hmm. And so the sensationalism of it. I mean, this is never going to end because the battle's on, you know, and it's going to get even more chaotic and more appalling or, you know, shocking to us that aren't walking in the world. And
yeah,
that's exactly what that is.
It is the way of the world.
I think it is absolutely true. Yeah, we're talking about our nature, who we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the flesh, and so remember that all mankind has this problem. You know, and some see it a little more duller than others, but we all are looking through a dull looking glass.
Yes.
You know, so I want you to just remember what it is that we're talking about, and our need. Remember, we went from powerless to realizing why we had to have the power, step 2. And that's what we're looking for, and that's what the book is all about, trying to teach us how to find that power. You know, and what they mean by that is to approach it. So
let's review real quick. Okay, so step 1, you know, we admit we're powerless.
we fully concede.
You know, to our powerlessness. And we realize that our life has become unmanageable, may have a lot more to do with a lot of other things, not just drinking.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're talking about we talked about our drinking and our sobriety.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, so many people think my life's unmanageable. It's my drinking that made my life unmanageable.
Yes.
But your life has been unmanageable for a long time. That's one of the reasons I drank, was because I couldn't manage it.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, a lot of people, the chronic alcoholic, when they look back on the first time they drank, it was like that became a solution to the discomfort of being in our skin.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because life was unmanageable.
And then in step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. We're saying, you know, what I'm doing is not working. Mm-hmm. And even though I may not understand this power, I don't even have a name for this power, I have to come to a place where I have to be in agreement with my own self to say it's got to be something bigger than me for this to work, right?
And yes, and the beautiful thing is that you can start right where you're at. You know, you can come whatever your beliefs are, no matter how inadequate, you can start from that point. That's the starting point for step 2.
And that's the key phrase, is starting point.
Right.
Or good enough to make a beginning.
Right. You know, to build this beautiful spiritual structure.
Right.
But if you got to have step 1 and solidly in place, and then you can start. See, I was kind of upset with God, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I could start from that point. Monty was in love with him, but he didn't know what was wrong.
Yeah.
He could start from that point. See, whatever your conception was, I didn't have to adopt Monty's. Monty didn't have to adopt mine. That's what they're talking about a power of your own understanding. They're not talking about you developing a God by your understanding.
Exactly.
Yes,
and
that can create quite a problem.
right. And yet that's kind of, and we see that as we understood him or understand him again in step 3, because now we're moving into step 3, where we're making a decision to turn our will and our life, our will being our personality, our life being our soul, you know, both, not just one of them. And that's what I had done, you know, in 1971. And I turned my personality, my thinking, over to God, but I didn't give him all of me.
Yes.
And so it was just an intellectual thing. In 1971 on a football field in Japan with a buddy of mine, but it didn't go any further because no one discipled me, no one came alongside me. Not their fault, but there just wasn't anybody to do that, and so I was walking around with head knowledge but not a heart knowledge.
Yes.
But now in step 3, we're moving on from there, and let me just say that if your God is the 12 steps, at some point you need to move on from there. The whole point of this practice is to move on from there. And I've said this before, and I'm going to boldly say it again. If you're in a meeting and that is not what they're promoting, you're in a bad group. You just are. At the very least, it's not the program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 pitfalls as far as I can see. We become meeting dependent, we become sponsor dependent, and then to beat it all down, we become step dependent. See, none of those things are God.
Yes.
You know, and Mike D said on this program when he was on the radio with us that he's never heard anything in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous that saved his life. Me either. And I hate to say that, but I've heard wonderful things that appeal to my hearers, you know, and to my emotions and those type of things. So it's important for us to see that. And where is our dependence like? We're trying to learn to be God dependent. not step dependent, not sponsor dependent. See, in the minute we put ourselves on a service plane, people start to rely upon us, and we're not supposed to let that happen.
Yes.
And we're supposed to be teaching the steps in respect for they can take a look at themselves, for they can go to God with a different attitude, with a contriteness.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
Because I know you just made a statement, and I know some of the listeners going, what? I never heard anything said in a meeting that changed my life. Okay. Now, let's expound on that a little bit. Because if we just leave it there, I can understand why somebody would say, what? You're crazy. Mm-hmm. Right? If that's all we do is open our mouth, and even though what we're saying is true, right, and just, it still isn't going to change somebody's life unless they have an encounter with the Creator, right? So we're like left to our own devices, left to just the quotes or the things we say only. That's not where the power is. That's what you're saying, right?
Exactly. I know the book pretty well, and no matter how well I know it and how well I get on this station and talk about it, that's not going to save me. It's just not.
Yeah.
See, what's going to save me is God. And the steps were designed for me to take a look at myself, for I could go to God with a different attitude, with a different heart, if you will, with a contriteness. See, if you go to him humbly, he says he raises the humble, but he resists the prideful. Mm-hmm. Well, we're ego, pride-driven, you know.
That flesh.
Yeah, the book wants us to take a look at that. And if you start to see that, you're going to go to God with a different, attitude. And I think that's what we're looking for, is to do that. Mm-hmm. And that's why it can be piecemealed. We don't see it all at once. But it's so important to see your need for a Savior. It's so important.
Yeah. So Eve, how did you approach step 3? I mean, what was going through your head when you first read that?
It's interesting. You were talking about the first time that you went through step 3, that it was kind of a head thing,
right?
Intellect, not anything that had to do with your heart. And quite honestly, my goal was to get through those steps so I could say I did the steps. It was all pride. It was all just flesh driven. Yeah. And I was a Christian when I came into the rooms of AA for the first time. So, and I think about how much I have changed, not just by working through the steps, but how God has changed me. Because if you are God's, truly His child, the work continues to be done as you submit to Him, regardless. And to be quite honest with you, I now at this point, I look at step 3 and I see how far I have to go before I mean, that's a huge thing. If you read step 3 and it's all about others and not about yourself, and how can we ever attain that when we're living on this earth? I don't know how we can do that. I certainly can't. It's a daily experience of, dying to self, and how well I do that is within the limitations of where I am in Him, as far as my growth in Him. And I do know that suffering, personal suffering, has got me to the point where it's given me a sense of less self and more of God, and it's actually something that it's kind of a fearful thing, actually, how little I am measuring up to what God is asking me to do. Yeah.
Wow. The phrase "as we understood Him," boy, we could open a can of worms with that one. Mm-hmm. But this is, and it's in italics, because that means when Bill's writing this, it means pay attention to this, pay close attention to this. And I would suggest that "as we understood Him" isn't in italics because the author wants you to pay attention to the fact, or to the concept that you can create God out of your own understanding, but it is an action phrase. It is moving forward. As, like when I say, I was thinking about what I was going to eat for lunch as I walked down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I turned my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. So wherever you're at that point is good enough to make a beginning, like we talked about in step 2. But it's as I am moving forward, as I am developing this understanding of him, not as I am creating him, not as and it says him. It doesn't say he, she, or it. It's very clear. So it's not, we're not free to create our own God out of our own intellect.
And that's where this open-mindedness comes in. Am I willing to take my stuff and set it aside and be opened to these other ideas and make use of them? You know, these spiritual concepts. And, and set my prejudices and my contempt, to the side. And see, maybe it's not him. See, and take a look at me and find out that it might be me.
I guess what I want to say about that is that I can't get there on my own. I'm powerless over that as well.
You bet.
It's been through life experiences that I see who God is. And it's been kind of an experience of grief, one after the other, of, oh, you're not what I thought you were. And it's a disappointment almost because I want my own way. And, it's through experience, but that willingness to keep walking no matter what, is that even our decision, or are we empowered in that as well?
Well, I think we're called to come alongside one another and enter into other people's lives, the mess and all, to help carry one another's burdens.
Be praying for them and
bet,
and encourage them.
Yeah, and to be an encouragement, because it's during those times that this growth takes place. See, we should be thanking God for that. Because he puts that in our life because he knows what we need.
Yes.
Some of us need a little more of it than others. Or God's going to use us in a special way, so he needs to train us in that way or mold us in that way. He knows. He's in charge. Okay? But for us to learn to come down to that, for he can work in and through us, like we were talking about earlier, buddy, that's pretty hard when it takes up a humble and humility person with some form of humility for that to take place.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to put this in context a little bit. One of the things that is good to do when you're trying to read something in context is read what comes right before it. And so we're going to do that. So don't go away. More on the topic Understanding Step 3 when we return.
Christ-centered faith-based solutions for youth, adults, and families struggling with life-controlling problems such as addiction.
Drugs and alcohol allowed me to let go of the bundle of fears that were always with me, even if it was just for a little while. But pretty soon I was deep in addiction. After an overdose almost left my son without a mom, I finally decided to come to Teen Challenge. Although I was away from my family for a long time, it was the best decision of my life. Today, I'm clean and sober, and God has more than restored my family, He's transformed it.
For more information and to locate a Teen Challenge Center near you, visit teenchallengeusa.com.
Welcome back.
Yes, indeedy. Welcome back to the show. Welcoming Eve D back to the show and talking about understanding the third step, step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Okay, on page 63 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, right before the third step prayer is and we've talked about this before, most every step has promises. And step 2 has a promise, and here's what it is. This is right before this third step prayer. It says, as we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, and as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we begin to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. Those are great promises. Those are awesome. And then it ends it by saying this statement. I'm going to have Bruce expound on this. We were reborn. And then it moves into the third step prayer. Bruce, you were talking to me off air that you had some ideas about this.
Yeah, let's just turn the page back and go to the next page. I believe what he's doing is he got to the end of the steps. Remember, he read all the steps before he read step 3.
Right.
Before he becomes where you're step 3. And I think that's for you to have a full knowledge of how you is going to go about doing this thing to turn your will and your life over, that you is going to do the rest of the steps. So that's part of your decision.
And that's why they read all the steps prior to getting into the steps.
That's why I think it's where it's at in the book. Okay? So then he goes to step 3, but then he goes, hey, wait a minute. All the way over to the other. Now we're at step 3 again. And that I used to wonder, why is he doing that? I have a little thing that I've been thinking about, and I'm going to share it on the air, and I haven't really done anything about it. But here goes, guys.
Okay.
What he does is he tells you you're at step 3. Then he says the first requirement is be convinced that any life run on self-will could hardly be a success. And then he goes on to describe what that might look like. It's just what it might look like in a person's life. And he gives you all these questions, like here they are. He says, is it not really self-seeker, even when he's trying to be kind? I put yes. Okay. Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can a satisfaction and happiness out of this world if only he manages well?
Yes.
Oh, yes. You know, is he not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things? Yes. You know, then he says, is he not even in his best moments a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Yes. Okay. So, I mean, he's really being simplistic, really breaking it down. But we want to look at all these words and take it apart or understand it and talk about it. And even me and Monty are some of the ones that have really done this, you know, taking the book apart. But I believe he's being simplistic. Look at what he's saying. Take a look. And if this is you, then he gets really heavy with this selfish and self-centeredness. Then he goes from that to, so we think our own trouble is basically of our own making. Then he goes after that. This is the how and the why of it. Okay? So he gives you these things, and he starts to pound this thing home. Now, if you understand these 2 pages and what he's talking about and the humanness that is in all of us, what you've done for the first time in your life is recognize your need for a Savior.
Yes.
Because, you know, in and of yourself, you are, if you're being honest, if you're right where you're at today, after reading this, if you're honest about where you're at, then you're going to go to God differently, maybe for the first time in your life.
Yes.
That's step 3. But we want to take and add all this other stuff to it, and and really just be intellectuals.
Well, and I think it's really vital that in a couple places here he's talking about you got to stop playing God. You got to stop thinking you're in charge.
Oh, absolutely, Monty.
And I think because he knew what we were going to do. We were going to try and create God out of our own understanding. We were going to try and mold him to our agenda. And Bill knew that. And if he didn't know it, he intuitively knew it. And he said the first requirement is that you stop playing God. I mean, we can't even go any further until you agree that you cannot make God out of your own intellect. You can't, because then you become the creator, right?
That's right.
See, and that's what we've always done, what you're doing right now, Monty.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful thing. But I think what Bill was trying to do is get us to look at this as just a little slightly different angle. I think Bill was really concerned with us seeing our need for God, not our need for the step.
I agree.
See, is what he's trying to do. And if you can see that, if you can just get a glimpse of that, you're going to go to God with a different heart.
Yes.
Oh, man, I need you. Can you please come? See, and God doesn't refuse that.
Right.
See, it took me all the way to the 12. You know?
Yeah, you didn't get it at step 3.
No, but I know people that have got a glimpse of it, and their whole program has taken on a different meaning. And they went right through this thing. They didn't wait around. You know, because they seen the door was starting to be open. And once he says, what is it? Once it's opened, you can always go back and reopen it. Oh, that's a wonderful description of what it is. It's the arch by which we walk through the freedom. This is it.
Yes.
See? So that's all I want to do is say the simplicity of what it is. And then he gets right into the prayer, you know. And I think when you're praying, I don't care what the prayer is, whether it's that or this. If you understand what he's talking about and your need, your heart's going to be different. So, and that's what we're looking for.
So, Eve, can you read the prayer, the 3rd step prayer?
Yes. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
That's huge.
It is huge.
So, Eve, let me ask you what your take on this one, because this is a phrase that is always kind of I've been confused about. Take away my difficulties. Now, of course, if we leave it there, we're really being self-centered, right? Right. There's a reason for that. That victory over them may bear witness to those I would help with thy power. So what we're talking about is, so victory over them would point to him.
That's right. It's not about us.
Right.
It's not about us. And that's why I think that when I first did this step with a sponsor, I mean, I'd been in the program for so many years, and I remember her asking me, now, do you want to do step 3? You've done this before. And I said, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do it. It's there. So I got down on my knees and I did it. And I had a spiritual awakening. I mean, I couldn't even finish the prayer. I was just sobbing.
Wow.
And that line, I realized it wasn't about me. I'm getting emotional again.
Yeah.
But, I think of the scripture where Paul had the thorn in the flesh and asked 3 times that the Lord remove it from him. And the Lord replied, no, this is good for you.
Yeah.
And I think about all of us, we've experienced suffering or things and that we have not been healed from, have not been delivered from.
You bet.
And we can know in our spirit that it's not good for us to have it removed because it's not beneficial for others. And that's the point.
That's the point.
That's the point.
So it comes back again to, we're not doing this just to stop drinking or stop using narcotics. We're doing this to become of maximum service to God and our fellows.
That's right.
So keep care of your spiritual life, and then the physical and the mental fall in line.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all these other things
will be added unto you. That's right.
Bet.
Yeah.
You bet.
Wow.
See, that's just a little different. So if we understand one and our powerlessness, and they're going to do it again, we understand our need for God, and it's okay to be a little upset and angry because of, life is kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So now when we go to God for the first time in prayer, we realize it's not about us, and we're asking that the bondage of self be removed and anything else that stands in our way of our usefulness to you for others.
Yeah.
About thy power. See, it's not about us, it turns to him. And if we understand that the prayer's it might not be full on, but the door is going to be opened.
That's right.
And maybe for the first time in your life, you're going to God with a contrite heart.
The sanctification process begins. That door is open. Now you're going to see God work in your life over and over, and you're going to be transformed more and more into His likeness through suffering.
Yeah. So what?
Yes.
So what do? You start to learn to ask Him in. You start to learn to trust Him. You start to learn to see that you're able to accomplish things that you've never been able to accomplish before. You ask Him for the willingness to go forward when you don't have it, and it comes. And it's not about the step. It's about the growth process to become more intimate with Him.
Yeah. Yeah, you bet.
Eve,
closing thoughts on step 3.
Well, when you told me that it was going to be on step 3 today, there were 2 things that came to my mind. One was, like it says in the 12 and 12, the fear of becoming the hole in the donut. We've put down, we're doing this, we've put down the alcohol, but if I totally surrender my whole life, everything about it, I'm going to become nothing. I'm not going to, I'm going to be a non-entity.
That's the fear. Yeah.
That's the fear. And, but we don't realize that what's on the other side because we haven't experienced it yet. So it is a fearful type of a thought that comes along with that. And then in the Bible, where Jesus is walking along the shoreline and he asked the fishermen in the water, come with me and I will make you fishers of men. And the next line says, immediately they dropped their nets. Now, the Holy Spirit was not within them to know this. It was totally, they jumped off.
He hadn't come yet. Yeah.
That's right. They were jumping off into the great unknown. But they recognized something, and they, of course, just like all of us, we recognize something that we, that need for God. Mm-hmm. We do have that innate thing within us. So, yeah, it's a great experience. I challenge everybody out there, if this is where you are, there are great and wonderful things on the other side of this surrender.
Yeah. Closing thoughts, Bruce?
Well, like Eve, I just think it's one of the most wonderful things that I've ever experienced. And remember, it's not about how well you do something. It's about where your heart is at. It's a matter of the heart. And we're growing in our understanding and our need for God. Mm-hmm. And I can honestly sit here and say that I thank God for my addiction. Mm-hmm. Now, I wouldn't want anybody to suffer for 45 years like I did. But now that I'm through it and I see the wonderment of who He is and that the healing that's taken place, I want everybody to know it.
Sure.
And I'm not sure that everybody has to go down that road.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I just say that it is the kingdom that we're in, and from that we'll grow. And I just want you to see it's not about the step.
Right. Right. Amen to that. Yeah. Well, listen, next week we're going to be talking about understanding step 4. Now, what's really interesting about this, the last paragraph in step 3, I'm sorry, the first paragraph in step 4, it starts out with 3 words. It says, next we launched. Launched is an Air Force term. It means 0 to 200 in a matter of seconds. It isn't, okay, we're done with step 3. Now next week I'll meet with you. No, we start step 4 immediately. Because I guarantee you we lose people at step 4 and we lose people at step 9. Mm-hmm. This is the part where we're developing a relationship with a piece of paper and a pen. And in step 9, we're developing a relationship with people. And so we lose people at these 2 steps. Mike D talks about that a lot, the author of Letting God In and Prayer and Meditation.
All these prayers that go along with step 4 is asking Him to help us, the willingness to go forward. Because remember, part of our decision is to do 4 through 9.
Yes.
Not,
yeah. Right.
Well, we want to
exactly.
talk about the frogs on the log.
So be looking forward to that next week, understanding step 4. So again, welcome back, Eve.
Thank you.
And when you need to go and take care of your paw, your chair's waiting for you. We're just so glad to have Eve back with us. This closing song, this one's a little dark, by Ray White. We're featuring his entire CD. And this CD is available to you at take12radio.com. Just click on the donate button. If you donate $11, then we're going to send it to you. This song is entitled The Living Dead. So all you guys that like A&E's The Walking Dead may appreciate this, but listen to the words of this. I think it's relevant.
Well, if you don't mind, could I get you to turn off the noise, boys? With your siren screaming, it sure is hard to think. Now let me see, was it yesterday or the day before? How long has it been since I had a drink? I got a cardboard box for a home down on the riverfront, and I walk the streets begging for my sanity. I rode the bottle all the way down here to the bottom, and ever since then the bottle's been riding me. Well, somebody get a gun and shoot that snake crawling up my leg. Lord, it's scaring me half to death. And there's a madman running around and around and around, wild inside my head. Somebody give me a drink and deliver me from the night of the living dead. I think I got a wife and a boy somewhere here in Tennessee. Yeah, I used to be a fine, upstanding man. The preacher down at the mission tells me I got a disease, but out on the streets they say I ain't worth a damn. Well, somebody get a gun and shoot that snake crawling up my leg. Lord, it's scaring me half to death. There's a madman running around and around and around, wild inside my head. Somebody give me a drink and deliver me from the night of the living dead. Well, either give me a drink or give me a gun, but deliver me from the night of the living dead.
This Friday, we are broadcasting our interview with Recovery 101's Bruce and Shelley. You don't want to miss that show. Until next time and next broadcast, this is the gang. We're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.